they're attacking her for experiences, but that bounces back onto Obama, because that was already the line that everybody was using against Obama. And again, like I said, if he's going to argue about his experiences versus the VP's, then it makes it look like, well, we know he's not going to compare his experience to McCain's. And that's bullshit, because McCain's been around a long time, but he's very experienced being wrong. Okay, so it's not just automatically good to have experience. Marcos says they threw a Hail Mary pass with Sarah Palin. I think there's some truth to that, but I think the reception was complete, sadly. So, anyway, question. The Palin nomination directed everyone's attention away from Obama, so in that, at least, the selection was effective. Marcos says, it's mind-boggling to me. In the middle of Labor Day weekend, I had the highest traffic day of my existence. Higher traffic than the 2004 federal election. Higher traffic than the 2006 general election. Usually on long weekends, people disappear. They hang out with family and friends. No one wanted to do anything but talk about Sarah Palin. She's interesting. I don't understand why you guys didn't get that. But the fact that she's interesting is going to help McCain. And we asked, will she stay on the ticket? The Christian right loves her. They've decided she's practically the second coming. Yeah, she's going to stay on the ticket. The guy says, isn't that a good thing for McCain? Marcos, it's a good thing for McCain, but it means they've completely abandoned the center, and they're not going to get any Hillary supporters out of it. They're not trying to get Hillary supporters out of it. They're trying to secure up their base, because with their base, they have 50% of the electorate. Then they can work on the 5% they need to win, okay? It's like Palin's Bill Cosby quote she had in the Charlie Rose Green Room, you can see on YouTube. You know, I don't know what the secret of success is, but the secret of failure is trying to please everybody. They're not trying to please everybody. They're trying to please half of their people, then they only need another 5%. And yeah, they might get 1% or so just because Palin's a woman, okay? People that don't mind pro-life women, okay? Or people that, you know, are open-minded to that, just because you know, they're not as picky, they're not as you know, dogmatic that you have to agree with them, and you know, and then on top of that, she's a woman, maybe they will like that. So you know, people that might have voted Republican sometimes and voted Democrat sometimes are actually possibly, you know, going to find that Palin is appealing, and it's a chance to vote for a woman and still vote conservative. He says, we can, for the first time, we can win on the base strategy. We're not running that, but we could. The Republicans, once again, are running that, and the Democrats, once again, are not. The Democrats try to please everybody. You know, instead of getting somebody that represents change like Obama, they tried to balance out that change with Biden, who's like the 4th most senior senator, has just been around forever. You know, because he has foreign policy credentials, because he likes to blow things up. You know, pacifists, they're considered not to have any foreign policy credentials. How could you have credentials in foreign policy if you believe in peace, after all? Yeah, they don't run to the base. They didn't in 2000 either. They got Lieberman. The progressives knew Lieberman was an asshole back then. The Democratic Party didn't learn until 2006 or so. And, you know, Gore wanted a DLC Democrat. He wanted to, it's like, I'll get all the liberals automatically, so I'm going to look more conservative. Hey, you don't get all the liberals automatically. You know, the Republicans know that. You don't get the fundamentalist Christians automatically. You know, you got to give them something like Palin. So what does Obama give the liberal base? Biden. And then the press is all like, everybody loves Biden. No, I don't like Biden. I think he's an arrogant prick. I can't stand Biden, okay? And I think he's weak on women's rights, even though he's a pro-choice Catholic. That's sort of a weird kind of, you know, life begins at conception, but I'm willing to look the other way and let you decide. I mean, it's not the most strongest position. It's fine and it's honest, and I believe, I really do respect that. The people that have a personal religious conviction, but can see in the broader picture of society that they can't decide those questions for other people. But it's certainly not something that appeals to the base to get someone like Biden in there, and it's certainly not something that's about bringing change to Washington and not getting it from Washington. I mean, Joe Biden does not represent change in Washington. He represents the status quo and Senate seniority and that sort of thing. Salon, You don't think there's anything to the argument on the experience front that she'd be the vice president while Obama would be the president? See, this is what I was getting at, that it's an unequal comparison between president and vice president. It's a dangerous comparison to even get locked into, political strategy-wise. Well, we're talking John McCain, who's, 200 years old, and suddenly his age has become even more of a factor than it was already. It's pretty amazing because this pick single-handedly makes his age a factor and eliminates the experience argument. My take, it draws them into making the age argument. They were a little nervous making it because of the backlash and the fact that people in America, that we don't have a very respectful culture of age. In the political context, actually we do have that respect, and people do respect experience in politics to a large degree. And this pick is going to draw out the nasty mixed century in 200 years. Now they feel they can do that. Before they thought, well, maybe that's too much. Now they're going to do it. Well, it's still too much, but the Palin pick has given them the cover that they think it's not too much, but it will. And so they've been drawn out, and it could well backfire on them because I don't think people like ageism in politics, especially when you're being accused of being too green and young. So he says it absolutely matters. It's not like there's on-the-job training as VP for the president's slot. Well, that's just bullshit. Of course there is on-the-job training as for the VP. It's about the only way to get on-the-job training for being president, because you're right there seeing everything going on, and you also get to step back and not make every decision. You can second-guess how decisions went, and you can see behind the scenes with all the information from all the briefings what's really going on. So actually you can be trained to be president by being VP. Probably not under an incompetent president like McCain would be, in my opinion, but still. He thinks it's a crazy pick, and yet look at the bounce it's given him. And did Biden give them any bounce? No, because Biden was totally sane. And that would be great if Biden really was the best choice. It's like, well, I'm not getting I'm not getting a bounce from this in my campaign, but when I'm president, Biden will be really useful. I would go for that argument, except for I don't like Biden. I'm not like Biden for years, and I don't think he'll be useful. I think he's an arrogant, out-of-touch prick, basically. I mean, look at his acceptance speech. Compare it to Palin's. Palin's was interesting to watch, even if you didn't like her. Biden's, he opened with an inside joke about the Senate. Then he shows his cute mother, for the cute moment, but he segues that into how she told him to go bloody people's noses. And that's what I did. Because, Biden's Mr. Tough. God, I can't stand that guy. Markos thinks that there was an understanding that McCain was going to lose, and the Palin pick was a Hail Mary. Well, I say the Hail Mary was completed. It worked. They didn't get in the end zone, but they got way down the field on one wild play. And how do you call that crazy if he knew he was going to lose? And also, no, they didn't know they're going to lose. They know that it's 50-50 in this country. They know that they can win, okay? They can win, and a week later, everybody could be regretting they voted for McCain, and they could still be in the White House. Salon, you just published your second book, A Guide to Radical Change. The method you advocate may surprise some people. In Chapter 1, The New Insurgents, you write, this is not an era for street protests, and you seem to have a strong aversion to many elements of 60s-style activisms in general. Why is that? Yeah, exactly. I mean, when he's asked to visualize peace, he says that's laughable, those hippies. Just like the Sanctimonious Women's Study said. But he says, well, I'm not necessarily against street protests. I actually write about the Gen 6 protests in genera, and I also write about the Orange Revolution and the immigration protests. And Salon points out, and Cindy Sheehan's protests at President Bush's Texas home. Yeah, and Cindy Sheehan. Cindy Sheehan was not well treated at DailyKos. Markos tolerated her because she was generating lots of traffic, But he hates that kind of activist, okay? He loathes that, and she was eventually driven from his site. I think he has a point that if that street protests, when that's all there is, get really confused. That, you go to an immigration protest and maybe there's going to be legalized hemp and U.S. out of Palestine and all of this kind of stuff, and it muddies the message. The fact that activists there's not an opportunity for activists to argue for their case all the time. There's limited opportunities. So they show up when there's a protest against the establishment on one subject, they all show up. I think that's fine. I think that is part of the street protest. But it's true, it's not a complete thing. But he's not being entirely honest. He is against the street protests. He thinks puppets or, giant puppets and stuff are embarrassing. But then again, he's totally wishy-washy flip-flopper because, when McCain was hugging Bush, or maybe it was Lieberman kissing Bush or something, and somebody made a float of that in 2006, he thought that was great. But doesn't some online activism run the risk of only reaching people who already agree with the message? Yeah. But does that always lead to real systematic change? You discussed Jim Webb's victorious Senate campaign versus George Allen, but have they